Oh, how do I sound? Do I sound good?
Hey, you sound great. We live. Hold on.
I want you and that young man to tie that knot. I'm gonna pray for you. And I want you to hold on to God's unchanging hand, because he helped Joshua. Get out the line, he helped get off the island.
Let me get straight to the business. Yeah. Got them lions in the building. Yeah. Why you lying to the children? Yeah. Why you lying to the children? Yeah. RIGHTEOUS. Man, you know I've been to bed. Man, they know they no contest. Yahuwah, he do the best. We will not see you tomorrow. Cause you cannot go to thought. All the sons and all the daughters. Standing hard with big manotas. But my son, he made me Taurus. On that line, I'm still a Taurus. Karate kicking Chuck Norris, 4-5 on my waist. If he started, would not hesitate to get retarded. Oh Lord, he ain't got a PowerPoint, he farted. He running to the hills like a Philistine. G-Hawk hitting Hamites with the guillotine. Situation turned up with the ratchet team. JJ 7000 to the bait lead. I know them haters gon' hate me, but he won't debate me. Pistol off safety. He respond, come wake me. If I don't get up, nigga shake me. If he don't show up, then he fake G. I touch down and make these nigga nuts hate me. Dear brother. Balling and crawling all the way from H-Time. Let me get straight to the business. Man, them lions in the building. Why you lying to them children? Why you lying to them children? You gon' cry, you gon' get it. Me, I'm like a frog, nigga, ribbit. Of course, it's in the spirit. I just got the Porsche, she can steer it. Michael got the raw, Shaq and Willie. Lamborghini doors, you better not spill it. Mama's high, say I'm more than just a villain. Mama's cry, I'm dope and wide for her children. Suicide, immortalized as the realest, yeah. Death by cop, black suicide. Let me get straight to the business. Got them lions in the building. Why you lying to them children? Yeah. Why you lying to them children? Yeah. RIGHTEOUS. Man, you know I been there. Yeah. Man, they know they no contest. Yeah. Yahuwah, he do the Why didn't take it over? Number one debate league, you heard me? When it's up, it's stuck. I'm stepping on everything, nigga. Metaphorically, of course.
Peace, just a mad scientist, back on the lines then. You can check me out, Eric the Mad Scientist True Nut, or Eric the Mad Scientist YouTube, and Eric the Mad Scientist True Knowledge Facebook, and my TikTok, Eric the Mad Scientist True Knowledge, my Instagram, True Hot 30, and my Bing, Eric the Mad Scientist. Before I go further, I'm gonna introduce Karima, introduce herself. So introduce yourself, Queen of the Lions Den.
Hey everybody, shalom. Thanks for tuning in. We're gonna have a special presentation by the brother Eric Mad Scientist. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, please hit the like, share, and let your friends, family, and everybody know that this is where the information is at. How you doing, Jay, King Jay, and Sister Hazel?
Okay, before I get to this video, I want to do an announcement. I do want to apologize to both debaters. to Corey and Ruben, because I just felt like I shouldn't have been in that type of subject that I don't really research in to be a judge. So hopefully I could do something like that again and have judges that really understand the subject I was in. I want to say to Zion, you know, I always liked you, man, and because you always stand on firm on your belief of being a roster, you know. So the little thing we had, just understand. I was just angry with the stuff I said because my mom just passed away. This is somebody that I'm a mama's boy, so that this one hurt me more than any deaths I ever had. So I just had to sit back and get myself back together. So I did these researches, got my stuff straight because I know my mama wasn't like that. She wasn't scared of death. She didn't want me to mourn nothing because she believed there was a better place out there. So we gonna get to this first video. Oh, and I want to thank Karima and JJ for understanding. You know what I'm saying? Understand a person could be mad, a person might do things, and it just is not off of just not me liking people. It's off of a situation I might have had that it just I don't want to lash out or be angry. I wait till I calm down. So thank y'all for understanding that. And, so this first video is going to be the evidence of reincarnation. So I just hear people. We always talk about what is in the afterlife. We always talk about,
Automotive industry
this.
pioneer Henry Ford, who told the San Francisco Examiner in 1928 why he had adopted the theory of reincarnation when he was 26. Work is futile.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So this video is
Eric
really
Mad Scientist, True Knowledge. You can peace. Eric Mad Scientist, True Knowledge. You can catch me on TikTok, Bing, um, and Facebook. Eric the Mad Scientist, True Knowledge, and also on YouTube, Eric the DA Mad Scientist YouTube. Okay. This is my new presentation is gonna be about reincarnation. Showing some evidence of reincarnation and studies from the leading psychiatrists and psychologists in the field. I just wanted to speak on this because I wanted to show some proof and evidence because people always asking and show some evidence of something not for this. So this is my path of on doing. Etymology of reincarnation. The noun reincarnation comes from the Latin roots re, meaning again, and incarnare, meaning to make flesh. The word reincarnation does not have to be a literal rebirth. However, the term can be used to mean a more figurative reinvention or rebirth. Reincarnation defined. Reincarnation, also called transmigration, a metapsychosis, metempsychosis, in religion and philosophy, rebirth of the aspect of an individual that persists after bodily death, whether it be consciousness, mind, the soul, or some other entity, and one or more successful existence. So just saying, some don't even just believe the soul. Sometimes they believe the consciousness or the entity. What I'm saying is energy. If for me understanding how people talk, I think it's talking about the energy when it's talking about the entity. Evidence that suggests the reality of reincarnation. Worldwide, children can be found who reported that they have memories of previous life. More than 2,500 cases have been studied, and their specifications have been published and preserved in archives of the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia in the United States. Many of those children come from countries where the majority of the inhabitants believe in reincarnation, but others come from countries with different cultures and religion that reject it. In many cases, the revelations of the children have been verified and have corresponded to a particular individual already dead. A good number of these children have marks and birth defects corresponding to wounds on the body of his previous personality. Many have behaviors related to their claims, their former life phobias, philias, and attachments. Others seem to recognize people and places of his supposed previous life, and some of their assertions have been made under controlled conditions. The hypothesis of the reincarnation is controversial. We can never say that it does not occur or we obtain conclusion evidence that it happens. The cases that have been described so far, isolated and combined, do not provide irrefutable proof of reincarnation, but they supply evidence that suggests its reality. So what they're saying is people who said that they came from a past life has marks, phobias, and things that carried on to their flesh by being passed on. And they're also saying that it's not 100% proof to say, yes, reincarnation is real, but it's enough proof for you to say it's not real and that we have evidence on it. And see, that's how science works. If you got evidence on it, you can prove stuff. It can't be classified as just real or a fairy tale. It has to be put in an aspect of this might can happen, even though it's not 100% proof. It's evidence. The Signs of Reincarnation, UVA, psychiatrist Jim Tucker investigates children claims of the past lives by Sean Lawrence, Virginia, on VirginiaMedEDU.com. Jim Tucker, Reincarnation Research. More than 2,500 cases filed sitting inside the office of Jim Tucker, an associate psychiatry professor at the UVA Medical Center's Division of Perceptual Studies. For nearly 15 years, Tucker has been investigating claims made by children, usually between the ages of 2 to 6 years old, who say they have been past lives. The children are sometimes able to provide enough detail about their lives that their stories can be traced back to an actual person, rarely famous and often entirely unknown to the family who died years before. So it's people that say that they have past lives that don't know have no contact with the people that they said they have past lives. There's nowhere that these people should know these people and understand their life and what happened. 60% of children who claim past life memories are male. Roughly 7% of the children claiming they died a violent or unnatural death. In those cases, just over 70% of the decreased individuals were male, the same ratio as the general population. 90% of the children say they were the same sex in a previous life as they are now. The median time between claimed death and birth, 16 months. Okay. Jim Tucker claims from his research. Jim Tucker, one of the only scientists in the world studying the phenomenon, says the strength of the cases he encounters varies. Some can be easily discounted. For instance, when it becomes clear that a child's innocuous statements come within a family that desperately misses a loved one. But in a number of cases, like Ryan Tucker says, the most logical scientific explanation for a claim is as simple as it is astonishing. Somehow the child recalls memories from another life. I understand that leap into it takes to conclude there is something beyond what we can see and touch, says Tucker, who served as medical director of the University Child and Family Psychiatry Clinic for nearly a decade. But there is this evidence here that needs to be accounted for. And when we look at these cases carefully, some sort of carry on of memories often make the most sense. Criticism of reincarnation. PSI Encyclopedia Reincarnation Beliefs. research and criticisms. Skeptical philosopher Leonard Angel maintains that Stevenson and other researchers have not even attempted to show that there is anything that needs to be explained in the reincarnation cases they have studied. One should try to determine whether the sorts of correspondence found between a living person and verbal memory claims and the facts about a purportedly reincarnated deceased person defy change expectations. If they do, there's something that needs to be explained. But if they don't, there is nothing to be explained. Angel would like to see controlled experiment work. Design Angel's subjective illusion of significance is akin to Michael Shermer, the tendency to find meaningful patterns in both meaning and random noise. This is a real psychological phenomenon, and Angel is right to demand that it be ruled out. However, he does not appear to appreciate the case subject statements must be considered as a totality, along with any errors and not in isolation from each other. Ruled out what he calls the subjective illusion of significance. Okay, so that's the criticism. It ain't a lot. And trust me, I've been researching, looking for criticism, people who speaking against it. It ain't a lot. Either they ain't doing it or they just, either they agree or they really ain't speaking on it. Famous people talking about reincarnation. Thomas Edison on reincarnation. One of the most amazing, wonderful discoveries about reincarnation is finding the large number of famous intellectuals and writers in the Western world who have expressed a belief in reincarnation in their writings, states Anna Jeffin, writing for Elder, Associated Research and Enlightenment. These include such fine minds as inventor Thomas Edison, who Jeffin quotes as having said, "The only survival I can conceive is to start a new Earth cycle." So this Thomas Edison, meaning that these not crazy people. These are famous people, some inventors, stuff like that, who actually believe in this stuff. Henry Ford on reincarnation. An automobile industry pioneer, Henry Ford, who told the San Francisco Examiner in 1928 why he had adopted the theory of reincarnation when he was 26. Work is futile. If we cannot utilize the experience we collect in one life in the next. When I discovered reincarnation, it was as if I had found a universal plan. Time was no longer limited. The discovery of reincarnation put my mind at ease. So that's Henry Ford on reincarnation. Because believe it or not, why would somebody want to believe that you just doesn't exist? To having proof that it's something not for this does ease the mind. But as far as me, people like me. Story of reincarnation. Sanam Wangdu, reincarnated guru. Born in Seattle in 1991, Sanam Wangdu was only 2 years old when he realized he was actually the fourth reincarnation of the original Tibetan Lama. Lama is the Tibetan word for guru. Dazong, the realization was the accumulation of a number of signs that had been accumulating since before the boy was born. These included the vision of his mother and her own Lama, as well as the words of the third reincarnation of the Zong himself. The Zong, who informed his acolytes in 1987, the year of his death, I will be reborn in Seattle. In 1996, the boy, who by then only answered to name Tulkula, which means reincarnation, left his family forever to be raised by monks while studying Tibetan Buddhism in Kathmandu, Nepal, and eventually becoming the head of the monastery. They are arriving in Nepal dressed in gold and maroon robes and riding on a luggage cart pushed by his mother. The little llama smiled wildly, reported Seattle Met in night 2016 follow-up story tracing the boy's journey over the past 20 years. When asked how long he would stay in Nepal, through the little boy was serene, almost stoic. Lots of time, he said. I'm just going to stay there a long time. So this boy became the head of the ministry. The guru before him, who he's supposed to be reincarnated from, told you he was coming back, and the boy have memories of his past life. This is a story. Okay, look that up. And this is my outro. From reincarnation to NDE, near death experience, I'm just showing proof that is evidence of something after this body dies. Because to me, just believing is not enough. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. Peace out. Study for yourself. Don't listen to what everybody tell you. All right.
Yeah, that video was just me showing the evidence of reincarnation because people always say there's nothing after this, or you know. So I'm just like my near death experience. I'm showing that there's actually studies and evidence out there that it is something after this. So this next video is called "Belief versus Knowledge versus Fact." I'm breaking all down into individual ones, and I'm showing that how all of us have all three and all this. But what happens is we just use one more than the other. And we think we only use one more than the other, and that's what messes up when we research. So check this out.
Okay, I want to say this: those that be debating and do not have like a computer to share their screen, this is a good way. As you can see, you see on the right hand corner, you see the like timer going off. That is actually screen recorder, so you can actually record your information. You know, go over it, talk about it, or whatever, and present it so I can give it to me and I can share it just like he did. You know, when you don't have a computer or a laptop, you can do the screen recording and send it to me and we can share it.
Yeah, she told me how to do this. She told me how to do this. So yeah, like y'all listen to it. It's way better because you just say like you know, you might have messed up on something or you might have found out some more stuff. You can actually just stop it, then go back and record it. Then you can make it to how much minutes you want. So if you're debating 15 minutes, you know, each video is 15 minutes. So that's for people who really can't do 15 minutes and really calculate it like that. So yeah, it's right. You catch me on Eric the Mad Scientist, YouTube or Eric the Mad Scientist, DA Mad Scientist, True Knowledge, Facebook. Okay, so let's get to this. Belief versus reality versus knowledge. Showing the different types of each subject, comparing them and seeing can we have all in one. I'm gonna put my input in after I show this evidence and proof and then we can get into what side we kind of going because I like to explain what stuff really is because a lot of people I think use things and never really go to the understanding what they really using. All right, let's go. Belief, a state or habit of mind with trust or confidence in place in some person or thing. Something that is accepted, considered to be true or held as an opinion. Something believed. A tenet or body, a tenet held by a group. Conviction of truth of some statement or reality of some being or phenomenon, especially when based on examination of evidence. Okay, so we understand that belief is basically it's basically different types of belief, but the belief when somebody is talking about as religious is based on believing in a lot of things that doesn't have proof to it. Proof meaning evidence of bodies, evidence of this thing that that the Most High that some believe is a human, but they can't prove it is a belief thing. You know what I'm saying? Almost basically compared to opinion to me. Opinion and belief to me is the same thing. It's something they don't have to that a person don't have to actually show as a fact. That's why I say if you want to believe, then don't speak on people that always want facts because them two they don't work together when they arguing with each other. Man, when you put it together as far as researching and understanding and it's better. You'll understand what I'm saying about that. And assume. Hold on. Let's go to the next one. Something there are four types of belief. Ackerman explained belief as four different categories of behavioral belief, unconscious belief, conscious belief, and rational belief. Unlike behavioral belief, unconscious belief can be interpreted from behaviors. Behavioral belief, by contrast, would be thought of as a non-conscious rather than unconscious. Behavioral beliefs are important in a human action where the agent encounters no difficulty, so that this belief do not require scrutiny of at the conscious level. Conscious belief are any beliefs a person has explicitly formatted and is aware of. Rational beliefs are defined as uh, philosophical idealization of actual belief structures. Okay, so there are different types of beliefs, and I always said this: science believed first before they had actual facts. That's the difference between something like science, religion, and history. History will have a belief of something and then go try to find that. Religious has a belief of something and doesn't have to have an actual fact or evidence behind it. But when you have but my problem is that what we have is when a religious person has um, a fact on something that they believed in at first, they never changed it. And the thing that with me as a person that's say science and stuff like that, they might don't have an answer to something, and this person might say it's divine, and they try to tell it's not when they don't have the evidence to say that it's not. So that's my problem I have between them two. All right, based upon a literature review of beliefs, Pajuris defined belief as an individual judgment of the truth or falsity of proposition, a judgment that can only be inferred from a collective understanding of what human beings say, intend, and do. Anthropologists, social psychologists, and philosophers have agreed upon a commonly accepted definition of belief. Beliefs are thought as a psychology, psychology held understanding, premises, and propositions about the world that are felt to be true. In the education settings, define beliefs as one conviction, philosophy, tenets, and opinions about teaching and learning. That's what I was talking about. It's different beliefs, but it all comes down to really an opinion, you know, and that's why science, that's why history, that's why all of them I say still has a certain belief in it because it comes off of biases of what they want to believe. And sometimes that can affect the way that you still research and study. When you say you're looking for fact, you actually have a biasness of belief that's actually holding that back. That's why you have a certain, like you might have a religious people that digging stuff in the ground too, but they every time they find something, they're trying to find it is it benefiting off of what the Bible is saying. So I'm not doing it. So it's like what you, everybody has a biasness, which is a belief too, because it's not a belief, but it could be based off of belief. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go to the next one. Knowledge is another concept widely discussed in the literature. The definition of knowledge as a term can be traced back to the time of Socrates. Plato suggests that knowledge has the components belief, truth, and justification. In the traditional philosophical literature, Knowledge depends on a truth condition. Philosophical lecture. My bad. I'm country, so I'm trying to pronounce. Philosophical lecture. Knowledge depends on a true condition that is being agreed upon the community of people. Based upon this definition, knowledge is a belief that meets two conditions: the truth of what is believed and the justification someone has for believing. Alexander, Scarlett, and Hare stated that belief are a category of knowledge and define knowledge as encompass of that a person knows or believes to be true, whether or not it is verified as true in some sort of subjective or external way. So knowledge is kind of different too the way they saying it. Some people are saying knowledge is based off of truth, belief, what I'm saying, all that in one. Fact, belief, all that in one. Some saying it's just another form of basically opinion. So a person can have knowledge, but see, people have a knowledge and they talking about let's say they talk about other universes or other dimensions. They can break down a lot of stuff that sounds really really good, and they have a lot of knowledge on it, but it necessarily is not is certified as a fact. But to them, it's truth, and to them who and the people who listen to them that believe in the same thing is truth, which comes to basis of belief. See, all these things are work together. All right, knowledge and belief. A number of scholars have made the distinction between knowledge and belief, stated that the problem associated with difficulty of finding the border where knowledge ends and belief begins. Table one um, summarizes the differences between belief and knowledge as discussed in the literature. Now I'm just gonna leave right here for a second because on my side this kind of small, so I don't want to try to have to read it. But you see the difference of what they're saying in belief and knowledge, and it's a really thin line. It's a really thin line. You see what I'm saying? Uh, it's all intertwined with each other. We need all these things. Well, we don't need them, but we, as humans, we just have it because we don't know everything. But we split things into different categories like knowledge, belief, reality, fact. When they are different, but they all intertwined with each other. Because it's things that you might don't know now you believe it to fit to help fit a part of a fact. Like they said, let's say evolution. They says there's one ancestor that makes us all this. Now they have some evidence on that we are similar to certain animals and all this stuff, but they don't have the X factor, the X ancestor that actually shows where the start begun. It's called ancestor X. They don't have that. So right now is a belief. It's a what they, or which they call a theory. A theory is a belief, but it's a belief off of research. It's just like I'm researching something, and then I don't have the answer to all of it, so I put a little belief in between it, and it's okay to do it because we're humans, but a lot of people don't want to admit to that. The world or state of things that they actually exist, as opposed to idealistic or notional idea of them. So this is reality. Now, reality is a little different because reality is what you can see, is what is in front of you, what you understand, what you live through, what you're going through. Reality. You see what I'm saying? So let me see if there's other aspects of reality though. All right. The quality of state of being real. A real event, entity, or state or affairs dream became a reality. The totality of real things and events trying to escape from reality. Something that is neither derivative or dependent but exists necessarily. The world or the state of things that actually exist
or opposed to the idealistic or notion idea of them. It's just like saying we have evidence and we believe or we have knowledge that aliens exist, but it's not a fact, it's not reality. Because aliens just ain't coming down here visiting us, and we can't just talk to them, and we don't have a conversation like somewhere, like in one of the movies, where aliens and humans are already interacting. That's reality. Okay. There's other realities too. Moses splitting the sea. A lot of people believe reality. That's not a reality. That never happened. We never seen it, and there's nothing that can prove that that does happen. That can happen. That's a reality of it. Belief is believing that it can happen without ever seeing the truth. I mean, without ever seeing it with your own eyes. Knowledge can be you trying to find and understand and break down how it could happen, but it still is not reality. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to the next one. There are, in fact, three different types of reality. There are objective reality, subjective reality, and intersubjective reality. Okay, let's get to it. Objective reality. Objective reality is the gold standard of scientific standard and what is real. It describes anything that is measurable, observable, would it exist even if human beings did not. Example would be physical law, physical stuff. If you are holding an orange, you can eat said orange. So it's a reality, it's basically a reality of what you can see, what you can study, what you can research, what you can put in the lab, what you understand is right in front of you, that you can touch. It's an observation also what they say the law, how things work. The sun works by a law, the moon works by a law, the water works by a law. And people don't understand that a lot. Even the Bible understood that. That's why I say the moon follows the order. It says the water follows the order. Everything follows the order, but a human being. We are the only ones that can break the law. Whew. All right, let's go. Subjective reality. Subjective reality is what you believe. Others can believe the compare opposite and would still be fine. Subjective reality is a gradient scale with a few people believing one extreme and a few the other extreme, and most believe in between. There is usually abundant evidence to support all positions on the scale. The most simple example are straight up beliefs. Some people are useful beliefs about something, others have limited beliefs about the same thing. So what I'm getting from that is, it's different type of beliefs, and we can actually, but like it's just like the Bible. You three people can read the Bible. We have three different beliefs on it. Some have limits of belief and high belief, meaning some believe in everything in the Bible. Some of us don't believe everything in the Bible, but we still might believe in the Most High. So we still have a belief off based off the Bible that we don't have the belief of everything in the Bible. I mean, we might don't believe in the characters. We might don't believe in one of the people in there. We might don't believe in the events. So this is why there's different types of belief. People just say belief rather than this like it's just one type of it. You see what I'm saying? And most people don't have just one type. Some people are having different types. That's why you can hear somebody say, I'm on about reality, and this person about reality, but they can still have arguments. Because everything they believe ain't reality, because if it was reality, they wouldn't argue over it. All right? Let's go. Intersubjective reality. Intersubjective reality is a special subset of subject reality. It describes things that exist because we collectively believe they exist to a point where would almost consider them objective reality. Examples include money, religion, fame, celebrity, and laws. So it's something that we created that made it, like money. Money is something that's man made, and it became a reality.
Religion is something that's man-made. It became a reality. Fame and celebrity is something that's made and became a reality. Laws are something that we made and became reality. Not talking about universal law or physical law or physical law or something, anything like that. It's talking about laws that we create as on top of the land. Things that we say is wrong because we think is wrong, but might don't be wrong in another country because it's created to be your reality where you at. Okay, so understand the different types of reality, different types of belief, different types of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? We all could be um falling different types of each ones, and that's what the arguments and the debates come from. Once we as human beings understand and become and try to put all these together instead of attacking each other with it, then we will become a complete whole more involved being. But until that, it was not going to never happen. See, that's what I learned from research. Research now, I don't just say, oh, I think this and this and that. I go and put both together. I compare them, see what the problem was, see what's the fuss about, see what I agree with on, and see can it work together. All three of these can actually work together. Reality, knowledge, and belief can actually work together. And it does work together, but what happens is some people try to cut off, like I said, science. I heard Unc said the greatest. Unc said it the best I ever heard somebody say it. So evolution does not prove that God does not exist. It only try to prove the existence of human beings. Now, what I'm trying to tell people is yes, that's true. And what science does, instead of saying we don't know and something divine might did do this, they'll just say we don't know. That's what they'll say. They say we don't know. Instead of, a religious person I say God did that. But neither one is wrong because it's not something that you can actually prove. It's basically a belief. But the scientist doesn't want to have be included with belief, so he takes that out. A person with history don't want to have belief, so they take that out. It's human beings right now that they never found a body, but in history they consider real people. Cleopatra, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan. Now it's getting to a point where they're saying people like Genghis Khan was a mythical character because the way they have to do science and the way they have to do history, it has to be evidence. They can have evidence, but it's just like Jesus. Jesus will have evidence of people talking about him. Might not be the biblical, but they have stuff with Alexander, but they never found their body. So it's really that mythical beings that has a story behind them until they find the body. They never find the body, then how would you ever know they're really real? That in the science field, in the historical field. And people don't understand when I say that, but all right, my input. I say all three can work together. I say we should understand the difference and when we should or shouldn't use them. As human beings, we have all of it in us in some type of way. And that's what I'm trying to say. Most people, anybody I talk to, they always tell me I just go by fact. Everybody don't just go by fact because fact ain't on everything. Some things are belief, some things are theories, and theories have belief in it. It has more fact than belief, but still has a belief in it because they don't have the whole sub. They don't have a lot of them don't have the whole solution of the problem, like evolution, like the Big Bang. That's what they're called theories, and people don't want to understand that either. It's just the difference is a person who's going by theories is a person who's researching and studying, trying to make that theory a fact. A religious person believes in something that is not trying to do it and say, I'm going to believe even if you come with proof of fact. And there's a problem between all of them that I have with, you know what I'm saying? And one day we just got to understand that all that shit really works together. All right, peace. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed that one. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted me to break down because I'm a person like anything I think of or hear people having a discussion, I just go research it. So this next one is gonna be about who is Paul and how they claim that he was murdered. You know what I'm saying? So I hope y'all enjoy this one. There's another little thing I did. There. Hopefully, if I got enough time, I got a last one about the Anunnaki, but I don't have enough time for that. Just enjoy this one. Paul, who was Paul, and how was he killed?
Peace. This is Eric, the Mad Scientist, True Knowledge, coming to you again. Catch me on Eric, the Mad Scientist, Eric, D.A. Scientist, Eric, the Mad Scientist, ERIIK, on YouTube. This is my new presentation right here, The Death of Paul. There's some of the sources I'm using. I'm using other sources like Christian.net, um, other biblical junks, It's really not, I don't what you would call a real deep look at the sources and peer reviews and stuff like that because there's really not a lot of information on this type of subject. A lot of stuff is kind of like mythical stories, but we gonna get into it, see what happened. This is called The Death of Paul. But I'm gonna speak on a little bit who he is, his life, why people hate him, why he was murdered, and how he was murdered. All right, let's get to it. Who is Paul? Paul describes his life in Philippians, where his lists 7 things ascribed to him or achieved by him. He stated that he was circumcised on the 8th day. He calls himself of the people of Israel. He says he is a tribe of Benjamin. He tells his readers that he is a Hebrew of Hebrews. When he thinks of his life relative to law, he calls himself a Pharisee. We'll speak on all that. When he speaks of his zeal, he talks about he talks of prosecuting the church. Lastly, he says that with respect to the law, he was faultless. And note that he doesn't describe himself as sinless. Who is Paul? St. Paul the Apostle, original name Saul of Tarsus in Sicily, now in Turkey. 64 CE, Rome, Italy. One of the leaders of the first generation of Christians, often considered to be the most important person after Jesus in the history of Christianity. In his own day, although he was a major figure within the very small Christian movement, he also had many enemies and detractors, and his contemporaries probably did not accord him as much respect as they gave Peter and James. Okay, because this is the ones I'm talking about. I'm going to try to go through all the disciples, not on this one, but each to see, do they have stories and other mythical stories or other claims that happened to them? Because I always want to know, these were real people. How did they die? Why did their bodies not found? Why is no really... Because history is a weird thing. History is, somebody says this person existed, history will say they exist. Even if they haven't found the body, they found the little things that have a little evidence that he exists, they would say that. But then they would go to some people and say this person didn't exist. So history has a real thin line to me when it comes to non-body historical people. History of Paul. Paul was a Greek-speaking Jew from Asia Minor. His birthplace, Tarsus, was a major city in eastern Sicily, a region that had been made part of the Roman province of Syria. By the time of Paul's adulthood, 2 of the main cities of the Syria, Damascus, Antioch played a prominent part of his life and letters. Although the exact date of his birth is unknown, he was active as a missionary in the 40s and 50s of the 1st century CE. From this, it may be inferred that he was born about the same time as Jesus, 4 BCE or a little later. He was convinced to faith in Jesus Christ about 33 CE, and he died probably in Rome, 62-64 CE. Books in the New Testament written by Paul. Of the 27 books in the New Testament, 13 are attributed to Paul, and approximately half of another, Acts of the Apostles, deals with Paul's life and works. Thus, about half of the New Testament stems from Paul and the people whom he influenced. Only 7 of the 13 letters, however, can be accepted as being entirely authentic, dedicated to Paul himself. His letters are written in Koine or common Greek rather than in the elegant literary Greek of his wealthy contemporary, the Jewish philosopher Philo Judaeus of Alexandria. So there's a little information on him. Of course, most people know he wrote 13 books, and they say 7 is already only authentic, but the 7 and 13 of the books, 27 books that he's supposed to have put in, and this is why a lot of people have a problem with Paul, and some people accept Paul, and this is the argument between that, because a lot of people believe that you go see Paul and Pharisees. Paul and the Phariseeism, and these are the Pharisees. Some people will talk about them all the time. They was like a different form of, I guess you would say, Christians, Jews, or whatever. Until about the midpoint of this life, Paul's a member of the Pharisees, a religious party that emerged during the later Second Temple period. What little is known about Paul and the Pharisees reflects the character of the Pharisaic movement. Pharisees believed in life after death was one of Paul's deepest convictions. They accepted non-biblical traditions as being about as important as the written Bible. Paul refers to his expertise in traditions. So there's a form of a religious group who they would say people like esoterics, the Gnostics, people like that who doesn't just go straight biblical and get their information from outside things and go to other things. They would be considered Pharisees to a lot of these, what you call Christians and Christian Israelites, was all the same thing. Okay. Paul believed that the Jewish converts to the new movement were not sufficiently observed of the Jewish law, that Jewish converts mingled too freely with Gentile, non-Jewish converts, thus associating themselves with idolatrous practices, while that the notion of a crucified Messiah was objectable. The young Paul certainly would have rejected the view that Jesus had been raised after his death, not because of the doubted resurrection, as such as because he would not have believed that God chose to favor Jesus by raising him before the time of the judgment of the world. So Paul at the beginning had different, religious beliefs, but their religious beliefs, it's like a freely thinking, meaning it's not a doctrine under one doctrine, so they go to different things and learn. And this is before he's supposed to have did that a flip from teaching about Jesus and being one of the most important people of Christianity. How did Paul become a Roman? We learn from Acts that Paul was citizen of Roman Tarsus. In Acts 16:37-38, upon being released from prison, Paul says, referring to both himself and Silas, they beat us publicly without a trial, even though we were Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. Here we also learned the magistrates were horrified at having beaten Roman citizens. In Acts 22:25, Paul asks centurion if it's permissible to flog a Roman citizen who hasn't even been found guilty, speaking again of himself. Unlike many of us in modern times who have a citizenship linked to our country, Roman citizenship was not automatic. it was not something you possessed simply because you lived within the Roman Empire. Instead, Paul received citizenship only because he was born into a family that had Roman citizenship, and his family received it because they lived in province Sicilia. Paul education. So we know that they saying Paul was supposed to have been a Jew, but he was a Roman citizen because his family were Jews that moved in Rome a while ago and was considered citizens, and he inherited from birth. Okay. Paul education. We read Paul's letters to the Greek language. And from this, we know Paul was well educated. He could think, write, and articulate himself in current Greek. This has this has led many scholars to conclude that Paul's education happened in Tarsus. Okay, he didn't really speak Hebrew, he spoke Greek, so we know this. Claims that Paul made Christianity and it wasn't the same as Jesus' teachings. Okay, this is something that I seen that was really interesting. And I would understand it because if he wrote half of the book, how could he not be just as equal as far as this Christianity that's being pushed? Because most of the books they're pushing came from Paul. So let's see. Did Paul create Christianity? One of the favorite arguments of critics has been to claim that Saul of Tarsus, who became Apostle Paul, and not Jesus, was actually the founder of Christianity. Paul is alleged changed the teachings of Jesus and became the inventor of Christianity as we know it. This belief has been held by many throughout the history of the church. So they claiming that Paul created Christianity and put his own teachers in it and made it seem like it was Jesus teaching. I'm going to get to that too. Paul, Christianity was different. The proof Paul contradicted what Jesus taught can be found in comparison between his writings and the four Gospels. Indeed, it is contended that Paul's teaching were not the same as Jesus. If one compares what the two of them taught, it is argued that there is no way to reconcile the differences. Each of them taught a different Christianity. The Christianity we have today is that of Paul, not of Jesus of Nazareth. So by him reading the books, a lot of the teachings that they're following are coming from Paul's teachings. And they saying Paul is not teaching of Jesus, and they're going to show the reasons why. Jesus chose Paul and appeared to him. This is when Paul's supposed to had that miracle vision, and that he became one of the word speakers of Jesus. From 3 separate accounts of Paul's conversation, as recorded in the book of Acts, we find that Jesus himself chose Paul of Tarsus to be his special messenger. For example, we read the following, Acts 9. Saul kept threatening to murder the Lord's disciples. He went to the chief priest and asked him to write letters of authorization to the synagogue leaders to the Senate Damascus. Saul wanted to arrest any man or woman who followed the way of Christ and imprison them in Jerusalem. As Saul was coming near the city of Damascus, a light from heaven suddenly flashed around him. He fell to the ground, suddenly flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say unto him, Saul, Saul, why are you prosecuting me? Saul asked, who are you, sir? The person replied, I am Jesus, the one you're prosecuting. Get up, go into the city, and you'll be told what you should do. Meanwhile, the men traveling with him were speechless. They heard the voice, but did not see anyone. Saul was helped up from the ground. When he opened his eyes, he was blind, so his companions led him into Damascus. For 3 days he couldn't see and didn't eat or drink. Acts 9:1-9. Now, this is the problem I have with this. Because you have other books like the Mormon book, the Osprey book of divine beings coming to these people and giving them the word or giving them a way to write this stuff down. But all the time when it comes to certain things like Jesus and New Testament, they'll believe this but not believe anything that's similar to this. And that's the problem that I have. And I don't know why, but it's like they'll come back to reality when it's talking about other people. But when it talks about something like this in here, they'll lose it and be like, no, that's true. So, that's the problem I have with religious people that's under the New Testament. Not only did Jesus specifically choose Paul to be his messenger to the world, the message of Paul was personally taught by Jesus. Paul, who wrote the churches of Galilee, the following explanation about the origin of his teachings. I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that good news I have spread in his is not a human message. I didn't receive it from any person. I wasn't taught it. But Jesus Christ revealed it to me. You heard about the way I once did when I followed the Jewish religion. You heard how I violently prosecuted God's church and tried to destroy it. You also heard how I was far ahead of other Jews in my age group and traditions of my ancestors. But God, who appointed me before I was born and who called me by his kindness, was pleased to show me his son. He did this so that I would tell the people who are not Jewish that his son is good news when this happens. So that's supposed to be his convert into being a follower of Jesus and teaching Jesus, coming from Pharisees and other teachings and knowledge that he had, which many people believe was some type of agenda because he was under the Roman citizenship and he was against it at first. And maybe, like they said, when you can't beat it, you join it, or you wanted to take it over, or you see how it was going, so you start joining in. Well, there's a lot of people do that today, but let's go. This one of the Paul stories of his death. Paul accounts bears a strong resemblance to the story of uh, Eutychus. In Acts 20, a servant, perhaps cupbearer of Nero, fell asleep in a window listening to Paul and fell to his death. After he was raised from the dead by Paul, the resurrected servant upset Nero by acknowledging Jesus as the eternal king, leading Nero to discover that many others among his own bodyguards were Christians. As with Peter details, changing their letter retelling, Paul is sometimes guilty of converting Nero's mistress and concubine to certain versions of the tale, and having converted almost the entire palace and others, Nero had the Christians arrested and Paul beheaded. Interestingly, a post-mortem visit from Paul convinced Nero to release the other Christians. See, this is where there's visions that start coming with people just appearing, people dying, appearing, people dying, coming back. This is what I'm saying, that we losing the touch of reality because of that. Resurrection. No, I don't believe that you can fully just die and to come right back. I do understand that it's proof of reincarnation and near death experience, and that the conscious could survive out the brain. But as far as your brain and heart died, and you completely dead and then come back come back alive, haven't heard of it. There's no scientific proof of that. So, like I said, that these things could be just. From my point of view, I believe they just ways that they use these things to make people follow them, like they do today in cults. Paul beheaded. Paul was executed in Rome in about 67 A.D. according to ancient sources, which, as Clement, Dionysius, Eusebius, and Tertullian, Paul was executed by beheading, a death befitting a Roman citizen. Ancient records suggest that Nero knew Paul personally, so it's likely that he had Paul beheaded, though. Okay. Why Paul died? However, the greatest event that surrounded the emperor was the Great Fire of Rome. This event was also part of the execution of Paul and the Apostle. History tells us that Emperor Nero started the Great Fire in the city of Rome. It began in July 1964 AD, which spread for 6 days, reignited and burned for 3 further days. This event made Emperor Nero bypass the Senate and rebuild Rome to his liking. He took advantage of the disaster for two things: build his luxurious architecture and prosecute Christians. Is there any proof of Paul's death? There is no proof of what happened of Apostle Paul's body after his death. Yet, based on Albert Barnes' writing, two possible scenarios happened. First, Lucina, a noblewoman, buried his body on her land beside the Ostian Road. Second, his body was taken to the catacombs below the city, along with Apostle Peter's body. So, my conclusion on this um, is some, like I said, history goes by some evidence. So, some evidence of people maybe talking about him or say he had followers, and from his writings, they're saying Paul existed. From my understanding, they didn't find a body. So my thing is, I always tell people, when I didn't find a body, the person could be a mythical character that put people took and made a face of them, like Genghis Khan being the face of um, Mongols, when there's no body or no evidence of him ever existing. What's his name? Not Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar. They never found a body of Julius Caesar, I believe. They never found a body of Cleopatra. And we understand through history, a lot of people lied. A lot of people made up stuff. A lot of people made doctrines and myths. And a lot of people that studied after them took it as literal. So could he be a real person? Yeah. Could he be a mythical person that other people used his name to put in front of their doctrine or their writings to make you have more belief in it? Yeah. So it's on. I just want to give you the evidence of this. Heard people speaking on it, and this is stuff I came up with. I might do one on Peter, upside down cross. I tried not to really speak on characters that don't have really historical backgrounds and bodies and stuff, because it's like speaking on a mythical character that's literal. And I really try not to do that, but I just wanted to speak on this subject. All right, peace out.
Yeah, I hope y'all enjoy that. Are you ready to go, Kareem, or do you got time for the last one?
Sit, sit. Yeah, send it.
Okay, I'm gonna send it now. Yeah, but hope y'all enjoyed it. I just, like I said, I just do my research, come from where both sides come from, and I let people like listen to it and decide, what they feel, which path they want to go. I try not to just tell, I don't like when people try to tell me what to do and what to believe, so I don't try to tell people that, you know. But this, let me see if I can send this one real quick. Anybody got any questions or anything, I wanted to answer. I'm about to send it right now. Okay. I just sent, I just sent it. Now this is the one I just do on the Anunnaki. Like I said, I just go and see the how the subject is, and I heard people really speak on Anunnaki and stuff. So I want to know myself, like, what is this? Who is this? Where did it come from? Why do people talk about them so much? So, and I just went into researching on them and from different cultures and what's the origin of them. Is they connected to human beings? What did they say they did for us, or what So I just put that together. I hope y'all enjoy this. Did you get it? Oh yeah.
You keep sending it to the other account, but I got it.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, y'all rewatch this video, share, like, like all the other videos on the last den. We're doing a great job.
Peace. Eric Mass Science, True Knowledge. You can catch me at Eric the Mad Scientist, the Eric D.A.
Can you hear me talking on here? I can't hear nothing in the video. Man, I might gotta speak on these, man. Something might have happened. Yeah, this stuff right here, speaking on like the origin of Inky. Let's see if I can read for us. This stuff right here, speaking on like the origin of Inky. Let me know if I'm echoing. Okay. Inky was the oldest son. Inky was the oldest son of the first gods, Apsu and Tiamat. In the beginning of the time, the world was different, swerving chaos from which separated Asu and the male principle personifies fresh water, and Tiamat, the female principle defined as salt water. Apsu and Tiamat. That was the origin. Then this Inky, also known as Ea, King, um, Nesuku, the Sumerian god of wisdom, freshwater, intelligence, trickery, and mischief, crafts, magic, exorcism, healing, creation, fertility, and art. Um, iconograph depicts from him from the bearded man wearing an honored cap and long robes as they ascends the mountain of the sunrise. And it's talking about Enki. Because like I said, I just want to know the origin. I like always going to the origin, who the people is, or what they, what cultures they were in. Origin of Enki. Originally, Enki, the known as Enki, was a Sumerian deity of fresh water and patron of the city of Eridu, considered by the Mesopotamian the first city established by the beginning of the world. The god first appeared in the early dynasty period, 2600 2350 BCE, and was established as an appointed god of the Akkadians by c. 2400 BCE, who knew him as Ea. Yeah, let me know y'all can hear me. But you can read, we see this on my YouTube, just in case y'all want to get the whole thing. That some of the, I only missed like 2, 3 slides. But it's talking about the origin and where he basically came from. His name was a king, like the ancestors Sumerians. We know most of the stuff we know that. Enki other names, 5400 BCE at Urdu, he was known as Enki, and later Akkad as Ea. The two names were used interchangeably for the same deity as in the Babylonian name, Nudimmit. Nudimmit. Enki was known as Mensiku, only in the aspect of the patron of crafts and art, especially objects devoted to divine subjects. So that's what I was talking about when I say like people influence other people, nations influence other nations. You know what I'm saying? And like the Canaanites, the Egyptians, how I showed the Canaanites was worshiping Egyptian gods, the Egyptians worshiping certain Canaanite gods, and you know, so when nations take over nations or turn into other nations, the language they still kind of get influenced by their gods, and sometimes they take them, maybe rename them. A lot of this goes on. So So they said another name is Ea, then another name was Enkig, Enkig. But the Akkadian version of it is EA. But my bad, because it's some reason it's not playing my video, so I kind of was talking between these jumps, so that's why it's so long, kind of taking a while to flip over to the next presentation. And this is what I want people to do, and this is what I do. And, when I have questions on things, I want to research. I want to talk on things. I want to see what's going on. I go on both sides. I go against the critics say. I go against the people claiming. I put it together. Don't never base it off just one thing. All right. About Aaliyah, Mesopotamian god of the atmosphere and member of the triad of gods completed by Anu, Sumerian An, and Ea, Enki. Aaliyah met Lord Wind. Both the hurricane and the gentle wind of spring were thought of as the breath issuing from his mouth and eventually his word or command. He was sometimes called Lord of the Air. So just like any other nations, mythology was always a part of it. So you had people that took nature, they took different aspects of things and they made stories behind it. To a person like an Israelite, it would be called like idol worshiping. But to them, it's not. And that's why debate always happens because, again, people are coming from both one side and I understand the other side. I understand both sides. I understand from the Israelite side, it would be called idol worship. From some that side is not because they're not going by the same things. You know what I'm saying? So basically, that's what they did. They took the sun, took the moon, took stuff like that, and made deities out of them. Though An was the highest god in Sumerian pantheon, Enlil was more important role as the embodiment of energy and force of authority. Enlil cult century was the Nippur. Enlil was also the god of agriculture, separated heaven and earth and made room to seeds for seeds to grow. He then invented the hole and broke the hard crust of the earth. Man sprang forth from the opening. Another myth relates Enlil rape of his consort Ninlil, Akkadian Belit, a grain goddess, and his subsequent banishment of the underworld. This myth reflects on the agricultural cycle of fertilization, ripening, and winter inactivity. So they're talking about again the roles of this is a mythical character, which they would call deity, which is something that they took element and it made it into a god. They put a name over top of it and made a story behind it. And what happens is people start taking it literal. And what happened was like when the Greeks started coming to these certain places and taking over, they were taking these stuff literal. And y'all go to my presentation, The Origin of Mysticism, y'all will see that it's talking about how the Greeks went into a certain place and they didn't really understand it and took a lot of stuff literal. And we get a lot of stuff from Greek mythology, right? So this is a Leo placed by Murdoch. Enlil was eventually replaced by Murdoch and executive of Babylon Pantheon. He continued to extolled, however, on a high god of Nippur until the end of the second millennium. My bad, these words kind of small, but he remained as important deity there well into the next millennium. So this is replacing meaning. It's the same deity. Sometimes they change it. Sometimes it might be wind, and they might change it to make it earth or make it water. But it's the same deity they took and they renamed it, and they might have given it a different position. They might have given more positions. You see what I'm saying? So it might have, instead of just being wind, it might have been a wind and something else. And you know what I'm saying? So sometimes that's what they do when it comes to like deities. The giants come from Anunnaki. You'll find the Johnson King James Bible also within Genesis 6:4 stated, there were giants in the earth of those days and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. And some became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. But keep in mind that this all occurred before the great flood, and Noah is known to be a part of the biblical history. The watchers to mingle with the woman of the earth that eventually resulted in the giants being born. So they're talking about, is a lot of people said that this connects to the giants. I've seen all type of things about Anunnaki. I even see it in the Native American thing where they're trying to say the Native American tribes were part of the Anunnaki. So this Anunnaki thing has went through generation G is still here in the modern times. You know what I'm saying? So that's what made it so interesting to me. Because now it's really placed on top of aliens. When before that it was placed on deities. But that's the same thing I showed when I was showing demons. When I was showing demons how demons were actually idols. To Israelites, they were idols. That later on became through Greeks and passing it down became a spiritual demonic being. So, y'all check that one out too. But this is what a lot of stuff do. That's what a lot of happening. Let me see if somebody's saying anything. Okay. I got any questions on this? I want to speak on it, say something, a link in the chat too. So yeah, I don't know. So y'all let me know a little bit about this. Y'all know about this, you know what I'm saying? Because I heard a lot of people saying the Anunnaki and this and was part of the Bible too, and they still speak on the giants and stuff like that. All right, scriptures on the giants. You'll also find in Deuteronomy 2:10-11. The Emims dwelt there in time past, and people great and many and tall as the Anakims, which also were accounted giants, as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emims. Keep in mind that this occurred after the great flood, meaning that these giants must have roamed the earth, and even after the flood occurred, there were several occurrences of giants in Deuteronomy, which you can find in Deuteronomy 2:20, 21, 3:11. Joshua 17:5 also mentions giants in its text. So these are places you can find about giants. I've heard some say about Nephilims. I heard some people say Nephilims are actually like Anunnaki. Some say Anunnaki is fallen angel. Some say Anunnaki is aliens. So, some say in the history of the origin, it was just a deities that was representing an element or nature. So, it's which way you want to really go. That's what I try to do in research again. I just try to put stuff together, show both sides, show different evidence, and so people can determine for themselves. I just want people to wake up, people to start understanding, people start really putting themselves into research. We don't have to just believe everything, and we ain't gonna know everything, and that's what we gotta understand, that equal balance. Some stuff we just gonna never know, some stuff we can know. So let's find out the stuff we can know. I ain't mean to make these slides for so long, but I have really had conversation on these things. But look deeper into the mythology. You'll find that there are giants mentioned in many texts. I'm just gonna read a little slower. So, just to name a few, you can find giants in the following: Norse myths, Jotunheim, a land of giants. Different types of giants are also mentioned, such as the Jotun and Lotun. 5 giants were lived in Muspelheim. So this is talking about the Norse myths of speaking of giants, right? Hindu texts. Interestingly, the giants known as Diat, yes, found against the gods because they were jealous of their half brother. Greek text. 2 great giants named Gia and Tartaros are mentioned in the attempt of the storm of heaven. It is stated that these giants were thrown to earth with the help of Hercules and lay buried underneath Mount Etna. Like I said again, it's talking about myths. What do myths mean? Myths mean you can be talking about a real character, a real being, but have a mythical story around it that might not be true. Have a mythical name on it that might not be true. Meaning, like, they're talking about giants, but then they're trying to spin in the way that they believe these giants was created, which might not be true. But does that make the giant not real? No. It means this is an aspect of how we thought things happen. So, what Enoch says about it. Oh man, I don't know if I can read that one. Let me see. Much like the Bible, the book of Enoch is really a series of different bodies. Inside of the book, you'll find the following: the Book of Watchers, Book of Parables, the astronomical book, the Dream Visions, the Pestles of Enoch. This is very important. Read if you want to deceive. The answer deceive. If you want to dwell deeper into the righteous text. Now the reason that we're talking about these books is because of the Watchers, Nephilim, and Bona angels. Okay, all right, let's go to the Watchers. Let me read this here. The picture. The whole earth has been ruined by the fallen angel Azazel. Right. The Watchers fell into the earth in our form of angels who fathered the Nephilim. What is interesting is that many of the names found within the text correlate directly to the Bible, Azazel, Raphael, Gabriel. And while the book is not considered part of the Bible, many believe that it is one of the texts that does hold religious significance. So that's what they talk about. Like a lot of people use the Book of Enoch because the Book of Enoch has a lot of these things in it, like angelic beings and stuff like that, and of flying creatures and stuff like that. So some people don't deal with it. Some people go about the origin, but like I said, the thing is, now I'm learning about an origin. The origin can change. So just like the 666, right? The origin of 666, people say is six neutrons, protons, electrons, right? But if you go into the satanic world, they use it for evil. So a person in modern time like me would look at 666 as evil. But they'll say no, because the origin of it is this. But that don't mean they're using the origin of something. Now you see how it flipped for being a person of there's the meaning of a human number of man or whatever they call it, then it's become a satanic number because we create our own reality. Again, we create our own reality. We can say what's evil and what's not evil. We can say what's good and what's not good. We do that. All right. The Anunnaki aliens. The Sumerian and ancient Mesopotamia achieved over 100 firsts for human civilization advances in writing, agriculture, science, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, transportation, building military schools, city planning, all originated in Sumer. The Sumerians credit these only found in ancient cuneiform texts. Could these gods be more than legend? It is possible that civilization made sudden huge advances in development 5,000 years ago as a result of the Anunnaki presence on Earth. Could the human race have been jump started or even genetically created by extraterrestrial beings in the remote past? Might the Sumerian text describe the Anunnaki be proof of this conspiracy theory? And that's why I said a lot of this stuff, the origin of this stuff has been flipped around to a lot of different things. If you really read the story of these Jones, is a lot of people that really took these things and flipped it around because now they're saying what? Like again, they're saying aliens created as genetic engineering, but they're trying to put aliens on Anunnaki. When alien is just is an early young word. And see, and that's what happens if we go into the origin. We got to go to the origin of everything and stay in that origin. We get when we once you start taking that origin and putting it all the way back into modern times, it's going to be different. It's like Egypt with the old kingdom, the middle kingdom, and the new kingdom. You know what I'm saying? It's not going there. Not there's no way you're going to be in this old kingdom, you get invaded, all this stuff happens, and then by the time you get to the middle kingdom, you switch your king, switch your conquering, and you're gonna have the same origin of the same doctrine that you had when you first was here before any influence or any invasion. It doesn't happen like that, and that's how not how stuff happens. And once we understand that, you'll have a more clear way of researching. Research has to be thorough, man. All right, Anunnaki genetic engineering. I'm gonna try to read this now. Well, this is kind of small, but I'm gonna try to read it. Summary: as a depth and study in humanity's Anunnaki origin of Anunnaki battle for the intelligent versus the enslaved humanity explains the genetic engineering of humanity by an Anunnaki scientist Nama shows how the concepts of seeing and the inferiority inferiority of women arose from the alleles will be kept humanity undeveloped. Clashing with Incas and the Mars plan to make us equal and intelligent reveals how humanity long history of conflict was shaped by the battle between Inky and his brother Elio, further developing the revolutionary work of Zachariah Stitch and Chris Hardy shows that the gods of the ancient myth, visitors from the planet Nubaru, created us using their own divine DNA first through DNA extraction from their own ribs, marrow, and later by direct relations with early human females. Um, Drawing upon multiple sacred texts, Hardy details the genetic engineering of humanity by Anunnaki scientists of human creation. Tamat Eve contained more alien DNA than the earlier male one. Adamu and how the biblical Noah represents the perfection of the work, explaining the war between Anunnaki brother Enki and Elil. Hardy reveals how the concepts of sin and the infertility of women were born out of Elil's attempts to the sacred sexuality taught to humans, still seen in tantric practice, became suppressed millenniums later by the patriarchal concept of original sin and how incident and innocent Eve took the blame for the expulsion from Eden and the fall from grace, showing that the God who created us was not the same God who expelled us from the Eden. Hardy only enemy gods fighting for implicating humanity in the wake of their own competition for power with a full psychological understanding of how the ancient gods have shaped humanity's ongoing history of conflict. We can move behind the framework. God versus your evil, impulsed by the Elil, and begin to share our own planetary destiny. Okay, and it is talk about, and they saying that this is going on in the Sumerian history. That means things like the Gnostics and all them was actually learning from Sumerian texts, or some way was influenced by them. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had to go see. That's something I got to go research on. But this is basically what they're saying that I think they were saying Inky, and then was trying to wake up the humans into intelligence, and Leo was trying to use him as a slave, and I've heard that before. But a lot of, like I said, a lot of them stories is influenced them. So we could name to even religions today. All right. Creation of human DNA. But these ones are a little bit bigger, but I'm gonna see. Chris Hardy shows the gods of the ancient myth, visitors from the planet Nubaru, created us using their own extinction for their own ribs, marrow, and later by direct relations with the early human females, drawing upon the multiple sacred texts. Hardy details the genetic engineering of humanity by Anunnaki scientist Ninema. With the help of Enki and Hermes, she reveals how Ninema's first female contained more alien DNA than the earlier male one, Adamu, and how the biblical Noah represents the perfection. So, like I said, it's a lot of things that you hear now that you hear in Gnostics, you hear in other different junks because it's a fluence. And this all comes down to the fluence that I'm talking about. From my studies, I understand myth does not necessarily mean that it's fake, but most of the time can be based off of real events, people, and beings. So could there be an alien Anunnaki beings that were here? I say maybe, and there is evidence to say it, but not enough to make it a fact. Stay woke. So meaning sometimes, like I said with the angel thing, sometimes they took um our demons. They like sometimes they took the demon thing and made it a saying it was at one point in time it was a deity. Then it changed to being a spiritual being. And does that mean either one is not real? No, that means that they got influence on it and they took that meaning and they put it on something else. And we've been doing that since the beginning of time. That's why Thoth was one thing at one time, then he became something else. Thoth was actually evil, then became the creator of writing in a later period. So, I don't know if Kareem on here, but that was the last video that I was watching. Let me see. Correct Enoch book defines using correct math, discuss the earth as an answer using the answer. I mean, yeah, they could be doing that. But that's why I put out stuff because I just put out stuff so to have people to think about. Have people to think what might come with more evidence and a better presentation, better sources. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to push each other to get to these evidence and stop just talking on it. And this would not. Let's stop listening to people that's talking on something that they can't really show. I hope that. Yeah, but yeah. Just if anybody got anything.
Can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me the whole time. You couldn't hear me. Oh man.
Thank you for watching. Please hit the like. He should be back. I think he having trouble with his mic.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Man, I was reading the whole thing the whole time. I don't think nobody heard me reading. I thought people could hear me.
Nope, we didn't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess something happened with the video because I had already recorded and put it on, but the voice didn't pop up. So I was reading the whole time, but said, should read the book of Enoch that tells you in the preference. It's not the actual book of Enoch from the Bible. Okay. Correct. Enoch book defines using mathematics, the NASA, also not using the astronomical view of astrology, and not science, the data. I mean, like I said, man, like yeah, do your research on it. Put that information out. That's just what I'm about. So if I find something that corrects something I said, I'm gonna take it, and that's just what I do. But Enoch has written a different time period. I mean, yeah, that could be true too. A lot of the books were they just we go by the humans and Humans tell us, oh, it was made in this time, and we just believe it. And I'm not one of them people, you know. I don't believe everything the government tells me. I don't believe everything that history tells. I don't believe everything science tells me. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of people are Greek mythology. Science. Yeah, that's what I was saying about the Greek mythology because what happens is if you go to the origin of something, you'll find out a lot of times it doesn't be the same thing as what the modern is talking about. So it goes from the origin of something, and it gets say through invasion, say them conquering some other people, and their story becomes part of their story. They're worshiping each other gods, and but it changed a little bit. And then next thing you know, these people conquer over here, but they're not connected brother cultures like these are. So these people that come over here has a different form of a way of thinking. So when they hear something and see something, they change it themselves. And that's where the Greeks come in. When the Greeks came in, they took a lot of stuff that literal that we knew that wasn't literal. So and they made story and they did the same thing, but made it into Greek versions. But they believed in these things. You know what I'm saying? Which actually wasn't nothing but myth. And that's where, a lot of stuff that we get stuff from them. If you look it up, a lot of us get a lot of America is based off of Greek mythology. A lot of stuff. Words, everything. So but yeah, thank Kareem for letting me show my presentation and, you know, keep doing your thing with the Lions then. And salute to JJ.
You're welcome.
All right, peace out.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you up, Babylon Don. We gonna talk about it. I already got a stream made for you, so I send it to you on here, so you have the link already.